Place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sport, and two of the most celebrated names in the game, Steven Gerrard, Cristiano Ronaldo. I think it's fair to say they've had better starts to their weekend, but not me, because I'm joined by Colm Boohig.
Oh,
you like
wow.
that? That wasn't scripted at all.
That's really good. I thought the two most celebrated names in the game was going to be an introduction to our guest today, who was waiting for his own introduction. Look at him there, he's waiting to go. And what are you going to say about him?
Clive and Colm have actually met before, Clive. Or you haven't met before, but you nearly met before, and now you've met virtually for the second time. Is that right?
That's right, yes. Good morning. Unfortunately, we didn't get to meet at Spurs a few weeks back, but I'm hoping that we do, because I'm looking forward to meeting Colm.
Very briefly, Steven Gerrard is gone, and Cristiano Ronaldo looks like he's more or less gone.
It's looking that way, I think, with Steven Gerrard. I think he was very honest in his post-match thoughts on the game, the way the team played. They didn't perform in the way that he wanted. Results have not been good. It's an old adage, we know, results business, and Villa are in a precarious position. They're not winning games. They're not energetic about the way they've gone about their performances. And I think Steven's very realistic. He knew that the inevitable was going to happen.
Yeah, let's get straight into it, because when I do this show, we start kind of rattling on, and then all of a sudden we're like into game 4, and we've 2 minutes left. Forest and Liverpool is the first game. This is on Saturday, 12:30 p.m. on BT Sport. I'm going to start with you, Colm. There are now 7 points between Liverpool and Man City. A title race looked totally gone. Liverpool conceded 1 in their last 3 games. Played really well against Man City. Maybe rode their luck a little bit against West Ham. Nottingham Forest trying to get a couple of back-to-back results. They've had a very poor start to the season. Talk to me.
Well, I don't think that Jurgen Klopp really expected Liverpool to start so slowly, but then you go through the 7-season itch that seems to happen with Klopp sides. He's only managed 2 others, Borussia Dortmund and Mainz, and it seems to happen, like if you're going 7 years with a group of players, eventually at some point they're going to hit a wall. I think, my own opinion of it with Mo Salah is that he's kind of creatively unfulfilled without the tense relationship he had with Sadio Mane, and he's looking around now and it's still a fine
creatively unfulfilled.
Yeah, because I think they had a little tension going on. There was like a lot of arguing between Mane and Salah, but it was a bit like Keegan and Tashak.
Yeah, I love that.
Noel and Liam, or whoever else, yourself and Dan McDonnell. You don't always agree, but you bring out the best in each other. Soulmates is what Robin Williams would say in Good Will Hunting. Yeah. Soulmates, that's what you're looking for. And I think with those two that they were football soulmates, and without him, I think Salah's dipped a little bit, but then the last 2 weeks he's re-emerged. And I guess, look, you can never keep a good man down and a good side down, and this Liverpool side have been massively re-energised, not by the Man City game, but actually the 7-1 hammering of Rangers in the Champions League. That got them going.
I watched that game, Clive, and Liverpool first half, all the same frailties, and maybe just give them confidence.
Absolutely, and it was a Liverpool side against Man City that was full of confidence, determination. They were sparked into life. I think Mo Salah wanted to show the world what a player he was, and I think that Klopp has got the response from that group of players that he needed after what was a slow start. I think he was probably bemused himself as to what was happening, but I see Liverpool going on now and forcing themselves back into the top 4. Don't know how close they're going to get to Man City, but they are going to get close, I think, over the course of the season now, because when they play in that manner, there's very few teams that can hold Liverpool.
What have you made of Núñez so far? Scored midweek. It's been a slow enough start from obviously the sending off earlier on, kind of, tarnished him as a striker. Has he struggled to adapt? Is he kind of getting there?
Yeah, I think he's getting there. I think definitely it was a slow start. I think we had, the Charity Shield where he had an impressive performance. I thought the other night, the one thing that really struck me was when he struck the left foot volley. It was one of those moments where you go, whoa, there's a player there. It was a fabulous save, but I think that all of a sudden you thought, well, this guy can produce something a little bit special. I'm sure that's what Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool have seen in him. It might take a little while to see more of that, but I think that he was looking, I just think he was looking more comfortable in his role. And his contribution was, I thought, massive the other night against West Ham.
Yeah, and I guess Liverpool do look like they just have a little bit more sort of self-belief. It was like the shackles were off. There was a lovely moment in the Rangers game where I think they were waiting on the 7th goal and it was on a VAR. I think it was Harvey Elliott, and Salah just wrapped his hands around him like a loving friend, loving father, and they both smiled, and Salah had probably gotten his hat-trick at that stage. He was happy. Now they're happy again.
Yeah, I mean, he was looking around for, he was hugging someone because he needed to recreate that spark, that creativity that's gone.
That's gone since Mane.
But it is amazing to me, like, because it just actually goes to show how brilliant Jurgen Klopp is and his coaching staff, and that for me, I don't think Liverpool actually improved over the summer. I think if anything they lost a bit. I'm a bit on the fence about Núñez. I suppose everybody is. He could go one of two ways. Like, you remember when Dennis Bergkamp first joined the Premier League with Arsenal, he couldn't score for ages. People are questioning him now. Totally different type of player to Núñez. Like, Bergkamp was technically gifted but lacked goals at the start. Or Núñez could be a kind of Diego Forlan type figure where he tries and tries and tries, but just never quite gets going.
I'm not sure technically he's good enough.
I would say technically he is, but he's just wild.
It's kind of an illusion.
It's his brain. I think his football brain is not at the level like you saw against Man City when he came on. Like, there's a reason he didn't start. And then there was the overlap on the side to his right hand side, and he just completely ignored it, which was absolutely insane for that level of football.
If I were a manager, I would I'm never going to play you again. That sort of example. How would you not play that?
If I was a Liverpool fan, I would have been totally exasperated by that. Oh my god! But I would say, I don't think that they've strengthened. I think they're roughly the same. And I suppose if you're the same nowadays, you might be going backwards a bit. So I just think Klopp is an amazing motivational factor. I think they'll be doing very, very well to stay right up there with Man City all season, because I think people are getting carried away with the win over Man City. A long way to go here. And
Clive, so Justin O'Hanlon, racing commentator in Ireland, one of the few Forest fans I know in Ireland, he's not particularly happy, but he said to me, Forest against Brighton, they were playing the ball out from the back like they were passing a hand grenade around with the clip pulled out. But I think Cooper is just like, we need to keep a clean sheet here. I think they barely had the ball in the Brighton box until 20 minutes ago. 0-0 was a good result there. Are they making progress?
I think they're making progress. I think they're finding their feet in the Premier League. They're starting to understand what they're coming up against. I always think with the side promoted who haven't been there for a long time, it takes the other Premier League sides time to work them out. That's when normally they need to get the results and build a little bit of confidence. That hasn't happened with Forest yet. The point was a massive one, I think, just to settle the nerves of everybody at the club. He has so many players to choose from. He's got so many permutations that must be going through his head as to, can I play him with him? Can I work? And I don't think he really knows what his best starting 11 would be if everybody was fit. So it's a real difficult situation that he finds himself in. I think he's handled it well. I think it's quite incredible that they offered him a new 3-year contract, which obviously was just, again, trying to settle everything down and say, right, this is what we're working with. We need to move forward. The point was a massive point. But against Liverpool this weekend, I can't see them getting anything other than maybe a 2 or 3-0 defeat.
Why was he offered that new contract, Clive, for you? I mean, was
counterintuitive almost.
Was it a case of we genuinely are committed to you and the project, or was there an ulterior motive there? It seemed very odd to me considering the format they had going into that contract signing.
Yeah, it had to be. It had to be a situation where, the hierarchy had spoken. They said they need to steady this ship. They need to show some faith in the manager, what he's doing, what he's trying to achieve. They must still feel that they realistically have a chance of getting out the bottom three. That has to be the ambition. Get their heads above water, and then try to stabilise. Staying in the Premier League would be an immense feat this season for Nottingham Forest.
It would be a remarkable show of commitment in the modern day.
It's totally against the trend of...
Totally against the grain, which, and the cynicism would interrupt my good feeling there, thinking that there must be a reason for this. That they're lining up someone else and it's an easier payoff for them. Maybe not.
You do look as well like the teams above them. Leicester, who've been underachievers, obviously beat Leeds. Wolves been underachievers, sacked their manager. Villa, underachievers, just sacked their manager. And Leeds and Everton. So really, really big clubs above them. Now maybe you're expecting Bournemouth and the likes of Fulham to drop down the table, but just briefly, are you going with Clive, Liverpool win here?
Yeah, has to be. And I really worry for Forest's goal difference there. Look at that, minus 16. They've only scored 7 goals. And look, it's a problem when you're signing. How many players did they sign, Clive? Was it 19 or 20 players? I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous.
20 odd players.
Yeah. You need continuity at one level, but you don't so it will take them time, and you wonder, is he kind of on the stock of last season in terms of the players he had? But I'd just be a little bit worried because Liverpool, they rather look a bit against West Ham. These are 3 tough games in the space of 6 days. I think the programme is so difficult on these players. It's an early game against Forest, who are getting their acts together defensively. So just playing the devil's advocate, it might be a little bit closer than we think. Next game, Everton v Palace, 3 p.m. Premier Sports. Starting with you, Clive, on this. Lampard, discuss.
This is I think a fascinating game, because I saw Everton at Spurs just last week. I thought that they were, for me, described them as negatives. Spurs have been described as negative, but Everton, I felt, had a couple of chances they didn't take. All of a sudden, they looked like they were prepared to protect what they had. Obviously, once Spurs scored, it was very difficult for them to get themselves back in the game. 3 defeats now for Frank Lampard. I think the signs were there, but they weren't winning games. It was draws, and it just looked as everybody was feeling Frank was starting to get his way with the squad of players, the team. Playing against Palace are a team for me that I can never call. Whenever I look at Palace's fixtures, I think, yeah, they're going to get beat today, and they go, for me, unexpectedly, go and get a result. They've won in the week. They go to Everton, who have now had 3 defeats. You think, well, they've found a bit of confidence. They should go there, get a result. It's such a difficult game to call. Frank Lampard and Everton need to win this game. I think that's the first and foremost and vitally important thing for them. For Palace, for Patrick Vieira, I think everybody's saying they're making progress. They're still inconsistent with it. I think with their performances, with their results. But I think this is the hardest game to call in the Premier League this weekend, but I'm going to go for Everton just to edge it.
Watching Palace against Leicester last week, it looked like they kind of just, especially second half, just get a result here, get a 0-0 draw. They were very conservative. As Clive says, Villa, they are quite negative, quite conservative as well. I'm not banking on goals here, so it's probably, judging by my call of City beating Liverpool 4-1 last weekend, that went well. So this will probably be 3-3.
2-1 to Crystal Palace.
2-1
to Palace, yeah. Very confident in that. Very confident. I think like Patrick Vieira's doing a fantastic job at Palace.
He has.
And he's reinvigorated Wilf Zaha, who's like on the verge of 30 years of age. He always seems kind of young to me, Zaha. Only that brief spell at Manchester United and came back, and he's kind of agitating for a move to a so-called bigger club. But Vieira's like reinstalled like the importance of him to the Palace team, which he's always known about. But I think with a reputation like Vieira, I think like you can see the respect that Zaha has for him, and it's bringing out like a better performance in him again.
I wouldn't underplay Clive as well. Playing at Selhurst Park, it's old school. The fans really get behind them. Great atmosphere. I think it helps.
Oh, for Palace, home form is going to be vital. Yeah, it really is. But going to Goodison, I think the Goodison faithful have a real impact on the team as well. I think they're very fair. When they don't like what they see, they'll make the team aware of it. And when they do see the effort, it might not be the results that they want. They will stick with their team and stay behind them. But Palace, they've had 1 defeat in their last 6, 2 wins and 3 draws. It's a difficult game for Everton to make sure that they win, and their performances have to improve, because I think they have to be more positive. Damari Gray, I think, was impressive at Spurs. He's the one. They've missed Gordon. I think young Gordon has been a real find for them. They miss him when he's not on the front line. So it's. I still think they can do it at home. I think Goodison Park is very, very important for Everton.
Read a stat this week that Anthony Gordon has the most yellow cards in the Premier League this season. Wow. Bad, isn't it? A bit of a dissent around that. It seems that Lampard's winning the never-ending Lampard-Gerrard debate at the moment.
Well,
today, as we speak, right now.
It's like me getting up this morning. Like it's
constantly. They've only scored 8 times in 11 league games, Everton.
Football
from what they signed, like
football is so daft. Like it was considered. Like Klopp was not saying that it was mad that Gerrard is going to replace him. Effectively, not that long ago.
Yeah. I tell you what, I bet you Steven Gerrard will be back at Liverpool working under Jurgen Klopp. I bet you that'll be his next job.
Heard it here first. A lot of things you've heard first.
Have you been to Selhurst Park?
I have.
Clive
old school.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Timber seats,
it's like so good.
Old school. Loved it. And the fans, ultras behind the goal, brought in a bit of a European kind of flair with all like the dark dress and like standing up and constantly making noise. Love it.
Glad
like,
all over. What a song.
Does it go?
Because I'm glad all over this, and I'm glad all over. Yeah. Is that what it is? Is that the lyric? That seems wrong. You remember it, Clive?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very, very loud, very vocal. That support behind the goal, and certainly I think that that plays a massive part for Palace with their home form as well.
What a show we've had! Yeah, we're only 50 minutes in, and we've had Glad all over. We've had everything, Clive.
It's incredible. The atmosphere is amazing.
I'm going to go back to Clive this time, just if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Chelsea v Man United, Clive. This is Sky Sports 5:50 p.m. What a bonanza on Saturday. Man United against Spurs. I was really impressed by them, and I have a tendency to to exaggerate every performance. But their body language to me was just exactly the anathema of what Ronaldo was, obviously, as he trudged off the pitch, thereby probably writing his own kind of death warrant in terms of his Man United career. And as the point has been made since, nobody really cares anymore.
Well, I think he's been one of the greatest, if not greatest, players. Obviously, it's open for debate the way that he behaved. I don't think he should behave in that manner. He'll pay a price for that. It'll be pennies out of his pocket. But I think that Manchester United performance, I've got to say, and obviously, I'm not neutral. I think Spurs encouraged them onto them. They gave them the impetus.
They were so negative, Clive. And why did he not make changes? They were so negative. The first half was okay, but this game is going away from you. And he made changes when the game was 2-0 and it was done.
Johnny, you're absolutely right. And I think it's something that's been levelled at Antonio Conte for a little while now. That is there a plan B? Is there a change in the way? We played with 3 midfield players at United. We were swamped in midfield. We gave up so many chances. Shots on target that Hugo Lloris, had he not been in the form he'd been, it could have been a far more embarrassing result than it was. So I'm going to sort of sit on the fence as far as United's performance. It was impressive, but I think it was encouraged by Spurs, the opposition and the way they played. But this one's a fascinating game as well, because United will come with confidence. Chelsea, I think, under Potter have adapted. I think they've shown, with the strength in depth that they had of squad, Potter's moved that around. Obviously, losing Reece James was difficult. Azpilicueta's come back in. But I think that they have a strength in depth of squad. And it's now going to be a test for Graham Potter using that squad.
Graham Potter, sorry, go ahead.
He mentioned Azpilicueta as well. He was the one player in the first 65 minutes that registered a shot on target midweek for Chelsea, which was interesting because I think they haven't conceded in 5, but it's not exactly attacking dynamic force at the moment either.
No, that's right. And I think that's why it makes it such a fascinating game, because I think United have to come. They'll press in the same way. I can't see them changing the way they go about the game. They're going to go and press Chelsea. How often will Chelsea get out to create chances? I see it being a very, very tight game. Chelsea winning, not sure. I think at the moment it looks, for me, probably the stone bank draw of the weekend.
Okay,
really?
Colm, the fixture list and the schedule at the moment, I think, like in the old days, you say when Clive played, was like generally you played on a Saturday, you built the momentum, you got ready. Like, so Man United, you could see like at the end of the game, Fred was like he'd run himself into the ground. There, the dressing room afterwards, they're full of it. They're on a high. And then you have to lift yourself for a game against Chelsea straight away. And it's like, if Man United underperform here, it's like Ten Hag, has he got it all sorted? I think it's really, really hard physically to keep going. And this is a test where Chelsea, they might come in just that little bit fresher because they didn't exert themselves maybe as much against Brentford.
Well, to go back to your point about the fixtures, like to start with that, like it's absolutely mental, and it actually goes to show the emphasis on pre-season now, because you basically have virtually no time to work on improving a system during the season, because all you're doing is recovering from the one game to get ready for the next game, and like you're running on empty. And I mean, like these guys, I actually question how they even motivate themselves for every match, because there are so many games happening that it's hard not to approach certain games a bit more like a training ground exercise than others.
At least this game is it's a late kickoff.
The late kickoff gives a bit of time.
It's a help.
Atmospheric.
Yeah,
nice,
it'll be great.
It'll be great.
There.
And obviously Chelsea away, it's a huge game for Manchester United, massive. Graham Potter's done an exceptional job so far. I didn't think he'd start this well. I would say, like, from a Manchester United perspective, from a fan perspective, I'd be a bit wary of this Chelsea side. The one area that I'd say United could take advantage of is without Reece James. Clive mentioned it there. You have Azpilicueta, but I don't know if he has the legs anymore for that position. They tried Raheem Sterling in that position against Aston Villa last week. They actually weren't great against Villa. And Steven Gerrard's Villa did play well that game, even though they won 2-0 through 2 Mason Mount goals. The other option they have is Ruben Loftus-Cheek is the other one at right wing back, and he's like a brilliant technician, great player, technically on the ball, but right wing back, I don't know if that's his position. So maybe that's the one area of the pitch that United could take advantage of. But like Stamford Bridge, tough.
It is a tough one to call. And the football kick-off with Sky, all the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports, and we see TV coverage changing all the time. Clive, what did you make of the pre-match discussion between the two coaches on the pitch live on TV before the Brentford-Chelsea game?
Yeah, I think, passions run high. I've been in that position myself, in that technical area. it's always the case. No one likes anybody touching their players.
No, did you see the Frank interview with Potter before the game where they had a nice chat about tactics and so on live on TV?
Oh no, sorry, I didn't see that. See that interview.
There we go. Yeah. What did you make of it?
No, I thought
you loved it.
Yeah, well, we played it on the show yesterday, but it was, before the match, they got Thomas Frank and Graham Potter together and they asked each other a question about the managerial style.
Frank was like, Potter, why do you change your formation all the time? And he's like, do I have to answer this live on TV?
That's my job.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I thought they did very well with the questions considering they had no time.
Very briefly, what do you make of Potter and the fact that it's an unconventional prep to get this job?
It really is. I think it's a fantastic story. And I think what he's done, he's come in, he's obviously fresh because, no disrespect to Graham Potter, I'm sure those Chelsea boys are just wondering what's going to happen when he comes in to take over. Obviously, after following Thomas Tuchel, I think the players have responded well. I think that's a great indication of the person, what he is as a coach, because players very quickly will work him out, will take liberties if they can, will find any weakness. And I think Chelsea have responded very, very well. He's going to have to use his squad very, very carefully going forward because of the games, as we talked about, the intense period before the World Cup. And I think he's had a very, very good start. I think there was a lot of people waiting to see Chelsea slip, but I think Graham Potter's done fantastically well.
Kind of fancies him to come second, which would be probably at the behest of Arsenal, even though Arsenal have had an unbelievable start. They visit Southampton. This is Sunday at 2 on Sky Sports. Southampton back in form. What have you made of Arsenal, Clive? I don't think anyone expected this. And even if you look at their points tally of... what have they got? 9 wins and a draw. And for all of that, their goal difference is plus 14. So they're really maximising their victories here.
Well, they're at their best. They've started on the front foot from the start of the season. 1-9, just lost the one game where they played well as well. That was something that any coach looking at his team, if you're getting performances out of your team, eventually you will get results. But Mikel Arteta has got a team that's 1-9, lost just the one, 27 points on the board. I bet he's in dreamland. He cannot believe it. The way that his young players, I think, have developed. They've found a little, certainly, confidence. The additions have been fantastic. Saliba at the back has been superb for them. That's filled a void that they needed to sort out through the summer. They did. Everything is as good as it can get for Arsenal, I think, at the moment. Everybody's now looking and waiting for them to slip up. I can't see that against Southampton this weekend.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So it's like they're in a false position here. Speaking to a few managers this season at League of Ireland level, they're like, the most important thing is recruitment. Recruitment is the most important thing. Forget about everything else, recruitment. And Arteta seems to have nailed it.
Totally. I mean, like, I was sceptical of signing Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko from Manchester City, thinking, well, like City rejects, kind of, tongue-in-cheek, but I didn't think they'd really improve the squad that much. So for you, Clive, is it purely down to the signings and, like you said, Saliba at the back, or is there something that Mikel Arteta and his coaching staff are doing that fundamentally improved Arsenal so significantly this season? What is it for you?
It's the introduction of those players. Jesus has come in full of energy. I think the way he's gone about his performances has been just lifts the whole bar at the football club. When you're sitting in that dressing room and new faces appear at the start of the season, and you see him and Zinchenko coming. Zinchenko as well. They've experienced winning. They know what it's taken to win. There's no doubt that they will have an influence on the younger players. Those younger players, whoever they are, however good they are. When you see, I think Martinelli has been at the top of his game. I think Saka's been fantastic on the other side. So from both sides, they've found two youngsters who are emerging to be consistent performers. Jesus and Zinchenko have given a level of performance. Saliba's come in. They've been far better defensively. The goalkeeper's played well. It really has been they deserve to be at the top of the Premier League. Now, will they stay there? That is the $1 million question.
Yeah, their one defeat obviously was at Old Trafford, where they did play very well.
Should have won that game.
Should have won that game, or certainly gotten something. And again, it's a result that in hindsight and with the ability of looking back, actually doesn't look bad considering Spurs' performance at Old Trafford. And it is with Spurs that we end up. Clive has actually played for 4 clubs that we mentioned. He's played for Palace, Chelsea, Arsenal, a little bit in pre-season. Briefly do my cursory Wikipedia. What actually did happen at Arsenal? I never heard this before.
63 days an Arsenal player. First
longer than trust. Longer than trust.
First £1 million transfer for a teenager. The game's gone mad, made front page news around the world. They paid $1.25 million for an 18-year-old. 63 days later, having had a summer holiday, 5 weeks pre-season, 2.5 pre-season friendlies, played against the great Sir Alex's Aberdeen, 2 games in what was the old Yugoslavia, returned to London to be transferred for Kenny Sanson in a swap deal where Kenny went to Arsenal and I went to Crystal Palace to work for Terry Venables. So in a short, it was just quite something incredible.
Speaking of Clive Allen's amazing career, right? Everybody needs to get their weekend off to the best start possible by YouTubing Clive Allen's goal for QPR.
I love this.
Against West Ham.
I love it's the jersey, it's the barnet, it's the adulation, the terrible pitch, you know, and yet the skill of Clive Allen.
I would text Clive the odd time about things here and there, and I was like, oh my God, I've never actually sent you this goal that I've watched over the years so many times. It's like, Clive, this is amazing. And just humble as like, oh yeah, thanks very much.
Sounds like this kind of obsessed fan type vibe we've got going on.
Oh, well, it was, and then it became a working relationship. Yeah. But then the reason I actually became the obsessed fan was this goal alone.
It's amazing. YouTube it. It is who were they playing?
Clive Allen,
QPR,
1984 QPR versus West Ham. Is that right, Clive?
That's right. Yeah. Can I tell you a quick story about that? Very, very quick story. At the end of the game, Terry Venables went on TV to do, I think, Match of the Day, or maybe on the ball, which was the Sunday TV show. Right. And Brian Moore asked him about the goal, and Terry Venables said, if that had been a Brazilian, because we didn't have Brazilian footballers playing in the Football League at that time, if that had been a Brazilian, everybody would be going absolutely crazy about the quality of that goal. So yeah, it's one that I like to watch. It was a horrendous Upton Park pitch.
It's awful. Even you can tell.
The great, and obviously he managed me later when I joined West Ham. The great Billy Bonds tried to take me out on the edge of the box, but I managed to squeeze it past Phil Parkes into the bottom corner, and I didn't react because we actually, in all honesty, should have been 6-0 down at half time. The legendary Sir Trevor Brooking, was absolutely unbelievable in the first half, and thankfully, a good friend of mine, fantastic striker Tony Cottee, missed 4 open goals, and I'm sure he'll remember it. But we went on to get a very, very incredible point. I scored a second, we drew 2-2. So it was one I'll never forget, a game I'll never forget.
I was barely alive and you're making me nostalgic listening to those names. But
Johnny, have a look at it.
I sent it to him.
Let me just say this, please. Let me just say this. We did play football before the Premier League.
That is lovely. That is lovely. I was a kid at the time, Bright, and a terrible pitch. There is like a crap 90s football vibe about the pitch, and you're like, I love it. But there were sliding doors moments. It didn't happen at Arsenal. It did happen at your beloved Spurs, who host Newcastle Sunday, 4:30 on Sky Sports. I start with you, Clive. This is a game that, Spurs for me were insipid in Old Trafford. Newcastle on the rise. Don't know how to call it.
Massive game for both clubs, I think, because Newcastle certainly are in good form. The way that they're going about, they're unbeaten in 6. They'll come to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium full of confidence. They will have watched the performance of Manchester United, saw how they almost, just rolled over Spurs.
Why was Son so terrible? Can you answer me that? Why was he left on? Why was he so terrible?
Well, Sonny's had a few performances like that, I've got to be honest. He came off the bench to score 2 magnificent goals against Leicester and show everybody his finishing ability. When he links with Harry, they're devastating. But unfortunately, I think for Spurs at the moment, Spurs are finding it very difficult because of the way they're defending deep, not getting the ball out quick enough and with any quality to their front players. So they're limited with their chances.
But this is the other thing, Clive. It looked like, sorry to interrupt, it looked like they were a counter-attacking team that wasn't very quick on the counter to me.
Exactly. But that, for me, and when you look at it, analyse it, that was because the defensive position was so deep. It happened at Arsenal. They invited Arsenal onto them, the way that they defended in their own 18-yard box. You cannot defend that deep. And even as a counter-attacking team, get out and get the full length of the field in the manner that you want. So I just think if Spurs don't come out on the front foot, don't press Newcastle, it could be another frustrating afternoon. And yet the season started well. Given the position we're in, third in the league, it's a position where it's a position of strength, to be perfectly honest. When you look back and you see Liverpool, Manchester United, Chelsea behind you, it's a fabulous start to the season for Spurs.
Yeah, this is the thing. So you're like, they've 22 points for 11, Colm. That's absolutely fine, and they've played difficult games already. Newcastle, on the other hand, 3 wins and a draw from the last 4.
Yeah, they're looking good. I mean, it's such a difficult conversation with Newcastle because there's a massive element in the room about the whole thing.
Let's just talk about the football.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you have to say it.
Absolutely.
But look, they've been very good, and Eddie Howe, like, just for pure footballing talk, if we want to keep it to that, has done a great job. I have to say, like up there with Graham Potter, like he's really like effective job. They haven't signed any big players. It's more about the system that he's implemented, and they're all buying into it. It just goes to show what you can do with a player. Like, individual players can play way above themselves if they're coached right, and he's doing a great job there. In this game now, like, I always seem to back Conte Spurs. I thought that Spurs would get something in Old Trafford at the very end. I thought they were going to win, and I genuinely think they're going to, like, Conte's going to be so angry with this Spurs side from that performance at Old Trafford. He didn't hide the fact after the match.
You didn't make any changes. If you were angry, make a change. It was clear in the first half.
But he's going to react to that. I guarantee Saturday evening, he's going to react to that. There's no doubt about it. He's not going to be like he was at Old Trafford. And if I was Newcastle fan going into this game, I'd be a bit worried. Like, Spurs are going to react to this.
Yeah, I'm being tongue-in-cheek about the whole Saudi thing, by the way. But it is what it is. And with the resources they have, it does look like Newcastle will definitely challenge for top 4. Clive, what is your call on this game?
It's always a difficult one, especially when I look at Spurs. My heart rules my head. I'm going to go for Spurs just to edge it. But again, that's the way Spurs have performed at home this season. The games have been tight. Teams have had chances. The one that comes to mind is the Leicester game. Leicester came, opened up, and could have scored 5 goals. The game realistically should have been a 5-5 draw. Leicester couldn't defend. They ended up, Spurs running out big winners. It was their biggest result of the season at home, but it wasn't an impressive performance. I see them. One thing I will say is Spurs will not change in the way that they go about winning their game, because they've won games the way Conte wants them to, and I think he knows that he cannot afford to get beat by Newcastle. Spurs just to edge it.
Probably a draw for me, Colm.
I would say Spurs. Okay. I'll go with Clive. Like, look, Clive, we're going to be talking to you loads throughout the season, but if I'm asking you today, right now, and you have to decide, do Spurs make the top 4 come the end of the season?
Yes.
That confident?
Yeah. Well, he did say his heart with his head, though.
Yeah, but I think he's analysing it. I don't think Clive would say yes if he didn't believe it.
I'll tell you one thing, his heart and head were in unison in that goal for QPR.
Oh my God. I mean, was that pure instinct, Clive? I mean, I just don't know how you did that. I could watch that goal all day.
I don't know how I did it.
and El Tel then to give you a big hug afterwards. These were the glory days.
What a man.
Thank you very much, Clive.
Absolute pleasure. Anytime.
Cheers, Clive.
Thank you, Colm. And that was the football kickoff with Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
The football kickoff
with Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.